Alright, this project involves doing some artwork that is very similar to that of Roy Lichtenstein. We talked about this in class, but this is going to be based on his work, a very pop art comic strip vibe we're going to kind of get from this. We're going to talk about this more in class. Happens to be a picture of him. Take a look at some of his artwork here quickly. When you zoomed in on his work and looked closely at it, you would see this called a half-tone or dot pattern. Thick black industrial lines and almost this comic book feel to the entire work of his. As you get a little closer, I'm going to just kind of back up here and just see these from far away a little bit. When you look at his work, and these are some of his more famous ones, Drowning Girl, and this one, Oh Jeff, I Love You Too, but it was kind of a parody, a lot of sort of joking around, but you can see the influence from the comic style in a few of these. And again, these thick versus thin black lines and primary colors that kind of make up his work, and I'm sure you've seen his work somewhere before. The halftone sort of dot pattern almost gives that newspaper feel if you ever look very closely at a newspaper, which again we'll talk about in class. Alright, so to begin this project, what you're going to need is one image of whoever you'd like to pick out. Doesn't make a difference who it is. In this case I picked Ricky Rubio here, just as an example. I'm going to go to Images, and then Search Tools. Make sure you go to Size, larger than 1024. And when I did so, I'm going to go down to this image here, click on it, be sure you go to View Image to open up the image as big as possible. Once you've done that, please drag that into your folder. You're also going to need for the background some comic bubbles, so all you have to type into Google is comic bubbles, find some interesting ones. You're probably only going to need one from the batch, but take the whole sheet if they come together like this, pull that into your folder as well. And last but not least, you'll need some kind of a, almost like a comic icon of some kind, I guess you could call this, or a comic symbol, or sometimes you look at comic lettering, you'll find the same thing. Now we can change what it says up here, so we can make it relate to whoever you've picked, but one of these kind of interesting shapes with, just so you can kind of get the color down. That's the sort of thing that you're going to need, because we're going to do some sort of a burst or bubble or background that we're going to use, for the background, along with some wording that you're going to put inside one of these bubbles. Okay, so once you have those images, then what we're going to do is we're going to start like this, just so to not confuse you too much. Alright, it eventually will have all of these on it, and then you're drawing on top, and then we're going to draw these as well. So here's how you start. You're going to go to File and New in Illustrator. Once this opens up, tabloid size is fine for this. You're going to hit OK. And then you're going to go to File and Place. When you go there, you're going to go into your folder, and you're going to find the images that you have. So here's those images that I showed you before. I am going to open up the one of Ricky Rubio first. I'm going to hit Place. Now once you have him in here, you're going to bring down the opacity. So it's a lighter version of him right at the top there. And then in your Layers panel, you can lock that layer. Then you can hide it, make a new layer, and do the same thing again for the other images. File, Place, same folder, find the piece you want, hit Place, bring down the opacity a bit. You could always make it bigger, and then again, lock it, hide it, make a new layer. So you're doing the same thing a few times until you get all those pieces in there that you need. There we go. Okay, bring that down in opacity as well, and then lock it. Okay, so now that you have those three, I'm just going to turn on the bottom one of Ricky Rubio. I'm going to add one more new layer, and this layer number 4 here, we're going to double click, and we're going to call it Drawing. So this is where you're going to draw all of your images. Once you're there, you're going to zoom in, and piece by piece you're going to draw what you have here. If you'd like to try some brushes and do it that way, that is fine. You can choose from these different brushes that you have, or there are extra brushes here, different style brushes, which you are welcome to choose and try to work with. I would suggest something like a 2-point oval or a 5-point oval, or at very least something that's sort of at an angle a little bit. If you go to Window and Brushes, same box pops up here, right? And you can control these a little bit by going to Brush Options. And then from Brush Options, you can change the angle of it here, the diameter of it, You can change variations of things, change size of things down here, roundness, all sorts of stuff to it. You can redo and then hit OK. Once you've done that, you're going to go over to your fill and your stroke. You're going to get rid of your stroke here on the side. Just keep a fill. This is with the brush tool again, and you can begin to draw. Now, obviously, that's way too thick, right? So undo, go back, change the size of it, and you can continue to kind of draw your piece. I would kind of close up each of these pieces. You'll notice the opacity I had set at 66 up top. That's why it's coming out gray. I'm going to undo, bring that back up to 100. It'll come out a little darker this time. So you can continue like that. My preference is not to use the brush. I'd rather use the pen tool in here. When you use the pen tool, click, drag, continue drawing, right? Make sure you have as few dots as possible to keep everything nice and smooth. So I would get rid of the fill, just use a stroke, click, and start to create the lines of this entire thing. Remember, when you get to the end, you can hold Option, cut back, close everything off, and you can draw, just like that. You can always bring down the size of the stroke if you feel that it's too large. You can always bring it down. And then later, we're going to change the fill and give it a white fill, or a black fill if you want it to have black. So really, you're just doing black and white on this. So you're going to go through each thing. So in some cases, you're going to have a very thin piece, maybe like that, or we'll give it a fill, maybe with no stroke, or however you want to see it. And then in some cases, we'll do something thicker, where maybe he has, his entire beard or something could be one giant chunk of black, just to give you an example, right? So you can imagine if you keep going. Now, just to speed up the video a little bit, I've gone ahead and I've drawn all of him up to about here. Ready? So we're going to open that up. Make sure you save yours. I'm not going to save it because I already did it here. Okay, so you can already see it kind of in here, what I've done, drawing all the pieces. So that when I remove the background, this is all you'll see. All right. And then from there, I'm also going to top this one, put this one on. Now what I'm going to do with this one is just create from the corners here, zoom in on it, maybe like this, and really just recreate the shape. And then later, we're going to talk about adding color, putting in all those dots, all that good stuff, as well as the words that we're going to put in there too. So I'm drawing all these shapes. These are easy. There's no curves here. I'm just clicking the corners. If I mess it up, I could always fix the individual direct selection tool to change the anchor points to wherever I want them to be. If I can't see right now, I could always hide the fill so that I can see it. Go back, finish it off, and close it back up where I started. Okay, there's that piece. After I'm done, I'm going to hide the background, so you just have that one piece. And this last one was the bubbles here. So basically, you're just going to pick out one of your bubbles that you'd like to try to redo. I think I'll probably do this one just to keep it simple. So what I would do for this one is pen tool again. But again, this is the way I would try it. And I would zoom in on it, and I would click here in the corner, click pull, come up to here, click pull, option, come this way, go to about here, come to the top, come to here, come all the way down to here, option again, close it back up, holding option. All right, so something like that's going to work, and I can always fix it later. All right, so I hide everything. I have these are my separate pieces now that I'm going to be using. What I would do is individually now take them, after I save this, of course, copy one piece at a time, I can right click and group them, that's fine. You're going to go to edit and copy. Then you're going to open up Photoshop. After you open up Photoshop, you're going to go on to the next video. Make your selection of the first piece. You're going to go to edit at the top. Then you're going to go down to copy. Once you have the piece selected like this, edit and copy. Then you're going to go into Photoshop. Once you're in Photoshop, you're going to go to File and New. We're going to create an image of the same size and at 300 DPI for the resolution, dots per inch for the resolution. So here, 300. Here, inches. It's going to be 17 by 11. Or you could always go to paper and then tabloid. We're going to do RGB color mode is fine. And we'll keep the background white, and we're going to hit OK. Now, when this opens up, what I want you to do then is go to Edit and Paste. And once you go to Edit and Paste, you're going to have this option of Smart Object versus Pixels. What we'll do with that is leave it as a Smart Object for now. Hit OK. We might change that later. At this point, when it's in here, now you have to decide how big it's going to be. So from the corner, or you could do Command T to get the bounding box around the edges, you're going to go Shift and Option and pull from the corner to create it the size that you would like to have it. So I'm going to go pretty big, and I'm going to move it actually over. Once I get about that size, I'm going to move it down and over to the corner a little bit. It looks like a good size about there, and I'm going to hit OK. Hit the checkbox or hit Return on your keyboard. Okay, now once I've done that, once I've done that, I'm going to bring in the other pieces as well, and they're going to be on separate layers. So you're going to select this piece, copy, go back to the Photoshop document, edit, paste, Smart Object again. Smart Object is helpful because we could do a couple of different filters type stuff to it, plus the resolution stays a little bit better when we resize it, make it bigger or smaller. It doesn't do anything too crazy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this actually real big. So whichever shape that you drew for your kind of burst behind it, and you could decide where it goes or how big it is. I'm just going to like turn it a little bit, make it big, put it behind him, hit OK. And then I'm actually going to hide the layer. So that's this top vector layer here. Sorry about that. All right, so this top one, I'm going to double click and just change the name. I'm going to call this the burst. I'm going to double click this one. We're going to call it face because that's his face. I'm going to put this one underneath him, hide the burst, and then do the same thing for this last one with where it was the bubble. Select that, edit and copy. Back to this one in Photoshop now. Edit and paste. And once that's pasted in there as a Smart Object, hit OK. So same thing, it's going to pop up. You hold Shift, decide how big it's going to be. If you want a big bubble, you're going to say a lot of stuff. You know, keep it pretty big. Move it and make it look like it's either coming out of the person's head or coming out of the person's mouth. Something like that is fine. Hit OK. And I'm going to double click this one and call this one bubble. All right, so you got 3 layers right now, right? Command 0, 3 layers, and I'm going to hide the bubble, and I'm just going to leave on the face. All right. Then from there, you will do a file, save as. You will save it to your folder. Okay, so once you're in here, you're going to put it wherever you'd like. I'm going to put mine on my desktop in my untitled folder, but you should put it in your folder. And I will name it with my name. You'll put your name. And we'll call it Pop Art. All right, and we're going to hit save.
Hit OK. All right, now, in order to apply the dots that Roy Lichtenstein would have in his work, so these are the similar dots that we looked at before in his work, right? So remember we looked at some of his paintings, and he has that half-tone little dot style that we call it, that looks like kind of this newspaper dot pattern that's inside some of the areas. So in order to create that for us, what we are going to do is go back to Photoshop. Make sure you're in Photoshop for this. We're going to go to File and New. We're going to create a brand new document in inches here, and we're going to make it the same size as our main document. So we're going to do 17 by 11 inches, 300, and RGB for the color mode to start. Matter of fact, you know what? Yeah, let's start with that. Hit OK. So it's going to open up a brand new document. It's going to be white. It's going to be the same size as your other one, but it's going to be blank. All right, once you have that, you're going to take your paint bucket. So make sure you have your paint bucket. Then with the paint bucket, you're going to select a color. So from here, I want you to click on your foreground color. And here, instead of trying to choose it, let's all do the same one. Here, CMYK, right? I want you to have C at 0, M at 0, Y at 0, and K at 20. And you'll get this perfect light gray. And I want you to click and fill. So it's going to fill the entire screen with that gray. All right, once you've done that, you're going to go to Image, Mode, and Grayscale. Say Discard. Then you're going to actually go to Image, Mode, and Bitmap. And when you go to Bitmap, this is going to pop up. You want to make sure you do keep it as 300. That's the same resolution pixel-wise as the image. And you're going to use halftone screen and then hit OK. Then you're going to get one more box that pops up. From here, we're going to keep it at 45 and round, and we'll try 15 as the frequency, and we'll see what it looks like. We're going to hit OK. And you see what it does? It's created basically that half-tone dot pattern that if I zoom in on it, you can see the dot pattern there. All right? So I'm going to do Command 0. Got it? All right. Then we have to do this. We have to do Image, Mode. This time we're changing it back to grayscale. Hit OK. And then we're going to go to Image, Mode, RGB again. And what I would like to do this time, now that we have it back as RGB, we're going to pull these two apart. You're going to take the Move tool. Make sure you have the Move tool selected from the top of the toolbar. And you're going to take this whole layer from the bitmap one, from the dot one, and you're actually going to drag and drop it over onto your pop art piece. All right, so I'm going to do Command 0, so you can see the whole thing. All right, I'm going to get rid of this one that was just the dots. We don't need it anymore, although you can save it to your folder if you'd like. All right, just like that. Then you can kind of move this around a little bit. You can drop it down a little. Go. Okay, looking good just like that. Now that's your background color. Now if we look at some of Roy's stuff, we can see what he has in terms of his background. He does sometimes have dots in the background. Sometimes it's a combination of dots and solid color. Sometimes it's just straight up solid color. And you can sort of pick and choose, but you must look at one of his pieces so you have sort of reference for what you'd like yours to look like. So yeah, there's some kind of combo of both dots and solid color in the background. So we are going to now go back to here. Back to here. Now that we're done with Illustrator, I'm actually going to hold Command and quit Illustrator. Okay. I am going to save that before I close it. Okay. Then once that's done, you're going to make sure that you close that one. You're going to click on back onto Photoshop. And you'll notice that layer 1 is a little bit off of the entire screen. It's not quite the same size as everything else. I'm just going to get rid of this so we don't get confused. Okay. Running out of power here. Okay, so once you're at this point, what you're going to do, you can see I have a background here on layer 1. I'm going to double click and just call that dots. And you have the face at number 2. If I put the bubble on, you'll see the bubble. If I put the burst on, you'll see the burst behind me that are not colored in yet. I'm going to hide the burst. I'm going to hide the bubble. Then what I want you to do is take the dots layer. You're going to actually copy the dots layer, drag and drop it to the new layer button, or hit Command J on your keyboard. Grab the dots copy, bring it on top of the face. So you'll see it's totally covering the face. I'm going to hide now this original one at the bottom. This one that I just brought up to the top, the dots copy, I'm going to go into it. I'm just zooming in so you can see a little better here. I'm going to grab the magic wand tool off the toolbar, magic wand, click on the white, right click, say similar. This way it grabs all the white that's on the entire page. If you see it from far away, you can see it kind of looks like it's glowing, sort of. Then we hit delete. So basically what we did is we took the white away from that top layer. So it's only black on the dots copy layer. Then I'm going to do select, deselect. Okay. Then for a moment I'm going to hide it. Then what I would like to do is go to the face layer. Click on the face layer. From the face layer, use the magic wand tool. We're going to break this down into a couple of different pieces, right? So we're going to break it into the face piece first. So grab the face. If we want the arms and the neck to be the same color, I'm going to hold shift, grab the neck, grab the arm, grab the arm. So all those pieces are going to be the same color. I know that, so I'm doing them. Also, he's got a little piece of an ear right here. I'm going to hold shift, grab that also. Then once I've got that, I'm going to right click, layer via copy. It's going to copy those pixels onto their own layer here on layer 1. I'm going to double click. I'm just going to call that face 1. Then on that layer, I'm going to lock the transparent pixels so that we don't affect any of the outside, only the white that's on that layer. You'll see if I had the face layer and the background, you'll see that the white is on its own layer on face 1 because that's the only thing I have showing right now. Okay, so put the background back on. Face 1 is on. Face is on. Got it? And then, how do we put the dots just in the white part of the face? So what we're going to do is, right here on face 1, I want you to hold Command and click on the layer thumbnail right here. And you'll see that it selects those pieces, the neck, the face, and the arms. Then we're going to click on the dots layer, turn it on so we can see it. And now, if we hit delete at this point, it would do this. And it would get rid of the dots that are inside the face. But that's not what I want. I want the opposite of that. So I'm going to undo for a moment. Then I'm going to go to select, inverse, and then I'm going to hit delete. So that's going to get rid of all the dots except the ones that are in the face this time. You can see it there. Then I'm going to do Command D, get rid of that. Now, we want to color in the face and color in the dots, because if we look at some of his original work here, you'll notice that the dots in front of the face are kind of red, but behind it almost looks peachy or white, and then there's other solid colors in other spots. So we're going to try to do the same sort of a thing. So what I want you to do, and you can use primary colors, those are the ones that he used, you know, red, yellow, blue, but you can also go a little bit, you know, off that if you'd like. So in order to change the color of the face underneath, we're going to double click the layer. And then where it says color overlay, we're going to click. So right now it's making him red. Now we're not going to keep him red. We can do something that looks more realistic. So we're going to click right here on the red, and we'll choose more of an actual skin type color. All right, I'm going to click that, click OK. Let that take effect. Okay, now once we've done that, the dots copy layer now, we can do the same thing. Double click, go to color overlay, and you can see it's immediately making them red dots instead of black because that's the color that it defaults to. Now you could change that to anything you want. You could double click that color. You could choose, you know, a skin color, but then just go darker if you want, like, you know, maybe this or this. Up to you. You know, I would try to keep within those primary colors of red, yellow, and blue. I'm going to hit OK, so you can see the dots inside the face for this piece. Okay, then once we've done that, we're going to continue to do that for the rest of the image. So you're going to go to your face layer, you're going to go to your magic wand tool, you're going to click on the shirt, you're going to hold shift, grab the other part of the shirt, right click, layer via copy. Once you copy it onto its own layer here, you name it, so we can call this shirt 1. We're going to lock the transparent pixels. Then we have to do the same steps as before. So it depends if you want to fill it with dots or not. Your whole image does not have to be filled with dots. There can be solid colors and then layers that have the halftone dots in them. So I'm going to keep the shirt just as is and just give it a color. So I'm going to double click. I'll go color overlay. I'll do a color, maybe a blue, something. Remember, primary colors in this, red, blue, yellow. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to do the trim around the edges of his uniform. So I'm going to go back to the face layer, because that's where they are. Go to the magic wand tool, select the trim here, hold shift, grab this trim, and grab the inside trim by his neck. Right click, layer via copy. Once you've got that, we name the layer, call it shirt trim. You just need to be organized and know what everything is. Lock it with the transparent pixels, double click it, give it a color overlay. When the color overlay comes up, instead of red, we'll give it some other color, maybe gray, maybe yellow. Maybe I'll do yellow here. All right, click OK, click OK. All right, now we just made those yellow. Very nice. Okay, so then we're going to continue. So the bubble in the background. Now I've missed a couple of pieces of the face, but I'll continue. But for the purpose of the tutorial, let's open up the bubble. There's the bubble, right? So now in the bubble, we could do a bunch of different things. If we look at some of his work, you will see a lot of bubbles that have just white in them. You'll see bubbles that have, you know, just the letters without the bubble. We can kind of mess with it and see what works best for us. Okay, but you could select the bubble just like we did with the other pieces from the face layer. Right click, layer via copy. Call this one, you know, bubble color. Lock the transparent pixels. Use your paint bucket. Choose a color that you're going to like. Whatever it is you'd like to put in here. You could do white, you could do a little bit off-white, you could do a blue. Kind of up to you. All right. I'll do blue for now, just so you can see it. It's going to fill that bubble with white on that layer. And if it didn't, you can always double click. Wait. That's strange. Okay, let's make sure that worked. All right, so if I double click that layer now, sorry about that. If I double click that layer, I should be able to give it a color overlay. It's not showing up. All right, something strange is happening there. All right, don't worry about it. We'll get back to that later. All right, let's go to the burst now. Let's turn on the burst. And now the burst is going to be a similar sort of thing. I go to the burst, I take the magic wand tool, I select the inside of the burst. Now, oh, I see the problem. The inside of the burst, it didn't have color in it originally. See, if I hide the background, there's no actual color underneath it. Same thing for the bubble. That's what was giving us trouble before. Okay, so hide the background so you could see a little bit better. So all I did was I hid the white background by taking the eyeball off of it. I went to the burst layer first. I clicked on the inside of the burst. Once you've done that, in order to fill it, all we're going to do is take a paint bucket now, choose a color, and again, the color's kind of up to you. I'll choose maybe a turquoise for this one, or I don't know, maybe yellow again. Some part of the yellow family or something is fine. Again, primary colors are good to use in this. And then I'm going to try to fill it. Now, if it doesn't let me fill, I might have to right-click and rasterize first. Got it? All right. Or I could always just make a brand new layer by clicking the new layer button, and then this we could call burst fill. And then just fill that, because that's a selection on a new layer. Now we fill with whatever color we want, in this case, the yellow. Got it? And then we do Command D to deselect. Then we take the bubble that's on top, and we do the same step. So we click on the bubble, we use the magic wand tool, we click on the inside of the bubble. Then we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to call this bubble color, and then we'll fill that with a color. So maybe we use white, is fine, paint bucket, fill it. You can kind of see it filling in. So it's starting to look a little bit more like a cartoon now. Now, behind this, we could put some other kind of imagery, or we could take the burst maybe, and hold shift to grab the burst and the burst fill. We could drag those, copy them. This is just another example for you. Command T. And then I could resize those to make a larger version of the burst. I'm holding shift and option while I do it. See if it lets us here. It's taking forever. I apologize. Alright, well this is taking too long, so I'm just going to kind of try to cancel it if I can. Alright, maybe what we can do is merge those two layers together. That might be a little bit better. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And then maybe Command T one more time and just see if maybe it'll let me make it bigger and smaller. Okay. Now the difference for this one would be this big burst that I just made. If it does let us do it, there we go. I can put the big burst behind the small burst. You should see it in a second. And this burst on top of this one. There we go. Just like that. Now this background one, we could use the magic wand tool, select the yellow pixels, take the paint bucket, choose a color, choose a different color, this time something else. I'll just use a gray for now, but just so you can see the differences. And then you're going to fill it in. And then Command D to deselect. Alright. Okay, so if you want some dots and things inside one of these or both of these, it's the same steps as before. Take the dots layer from here, copy the dots layer, put the dots layer on top of the gray one here. Got it? Then what I would do is hide it for a moment, go back to the burst fill layer copy here, take the magic wand tool, select the gray. Once it selects the gray, go back up to this dots layer, turn the eyeball on for the dots layer, copy to this one, and then we're going to select inverse at the top, and then we're going to hit delete. So it should get rid of all of the outside edge stuff. There we go. Very good, very good. All right, I'm going to hide the original dots one at the bottom so we don't get confused. And I'm going to turn on the white for the background. Okay. So really the same thing exists from before. You know, if I look closely at this, you'll see the dots in the background and the dots in him, right? You can see the dots that lay over the top of the gray that's in the big burst behind him. So the next step, what you're going to do is just take the dots layer now. You should be able to see both once it comes back up. There we go. Alright, so on this dots copy to layer, you're going to just zoom in, take that magic wand tool, select the white that's inside of it, just like we did earlier in the video. Once you've got that selected, you can right click, say similar, and then hit delete. There we go. So it's eliminating the white so you can see the gray that's on the burst fill copy layer that's underneath it. And then we're going to do Command D, get rid of those dots. And those selection dots. There we go. Don't worry about this. I don't know what that is. Okay, and then the last little bit here is going to be using the text tool to create some words that go in here. You can use one big statement or say something funny that, you know, this particular character, whoever you chose, might say. In that situation, there should be some humor to it. So use that text tool. You're going to click, type in the words, make them big across this area, as big as you can to fill in the bubble. You can give them any color you want. Again, you can go in and you can fill the eyes. You can change any colors to any piece. And that should be it. I'll help you with that part of it when you're done, when you're ready for it. Just let me know. Again, here, click. It could be like this guy passes all the time, so we could do pass. Type it in. Pull this layer to the top. Everything's working really slow here. Make sure it's a color that you can read, obviously. Make it a blue or something that's going to pop out again. Primary colors, hit OK. Okay, make this much bigger so it fills up the area. Change the font if you need to. OK it, you can right click, rasterize it, and then you can do Command T. After it's rasterized, you do Command T. You can move it now. You can right click. You can put it at an angle. You can make it smaller. You can, rotate and resize and scale and skew and do perspective or whatever you need to make this work right. And you're gonna put it in here. We can put dots inside this later as well. Just gonna make it a little smaller. All right, and then we'll talk about just what we're going to fill that background. But look at some of his work, and you'll find some colors that'll work for the background. We might put dots in there as well. and you can add any other elements that you find from his artwork.